The following program is an original production of Link TV.
Terrorists bomb a Saudi apartment complex. Moderates and extremists clash over the meaning of jihad. A cleric warns his followers against straying from Islam. These are the kinds of images Westerners have come to associate with the Middle East. But look deeper, and you'll find something different. Arab TV shows that defy Western expectations and give us a new way of seeing the Middle East. From extravagant historical dramas to over-the-top soap operas, from interactive game shows to a charismatic modern Muslim preacher, these are just a few of the new programs fed to hungry Arabic-speaking audiences during the Muslim holy month of Ramadan. What does this month of special TV programs tell us about the tastes, preoccupations, and perceptions of viewers in the Arab world? Find out as we take a tour of Ramadan Primetime. With more than 200 different satellite channels, the Middle East has fully joined global television culture. Suhaila Al-Jada, an Arab-American journalist, monitors this satellite media and reports on Middle Eastern and Islamic issues.
I usually look at serious news programming, but the Ramadan shows, even the silly ones, are revealing because they show a really human side of life in the Middle East. Ramadan is the 9th month of the Muslim calendar, and it begins when people see the new crescent moon. From that point on, for the next month, Muslims everywhere fast from sunrise to sunset. And it's not just refraining from food all day, it's holding off from even a drop of water, from bad language, from sex, from smoking, even chewing gum. So the things that a lot of people take for granted, like lunches at work or coffee breaks at work, forget about it, you can't have them. The whole point is to purify one's body and soul. A lot of times people go to the mosque and spend extra time at the mosque, or they do extra prayers at home. But it's not only about prayers and reflection. Every night Muslims get together and enjoy a meal called an iftar. And afterwards, many people watch TV. They watch a lot of TV.
Ramadan should be seen as a sweep season for the Middle East. That's when new programs are seen and when some testing of the market is conducted. The Ramadan show phenomenon is really not about religion. It's about season. It's a very important season for people. I mean, this is true for Christians and Muslims and Jews who live in Muslim countries. This is a time when people stay up late because that's the tradition. You can walk in streets in Cairo and Beirut or Damascus and it feels like it's during the day because people stay up and they have another meal after dinner, after they break their fast, and then they go to bed very late and then they wake up to start another day of fasting if they are religious. But everybody, those who are religious and those who are not, partake in what I can call the culture of Ramadan, and TV has become, in the last 20, 30 years, a huge part of it.
For those of us who live in the Middle East, and for those of us in Muslim families that are religious but secular, Ramadan is about TV. That's the bottom line. And these shows are about what people are talking about. You know, they're the buzz.
You'll find that if you go to remote villages where poor people live, you still will find the phenomenon of the satellite channels. I mean, they pay something like $10 and sometimes less than that to receive more than 100 channels available at their homes.
The blossoming of satellite television has allowed for a lot more creativity in what's produced. It's allowed for a variety of opinions being aired on the broadcast waves. It's allowed for the Middle East to really allow its true colors to shine.
When the sun goes down in Amman, Jordan, The Jilani family celebrates Ramadan much like the more than 1 billion Muslims throughout the world. They break their daily fast with the iftar, a large festive meal. They chat, visit friends and family, and like millions in the Arabic-speaking world, they settle in for a large nightly dose of satellite TV, including the most talked-about miniseries of the season, the 30-part Hur Layin, named for the beautiful virgin some say await Muslim martyrs in heaven.
I always argue with my family because I don't like missing the series that I usually watch, and we only agree at Hur Layin. I like it because it's based on a true story and it's exciting. It shows how innocent people suffer from terrorism.
Arab satellite TV reaches deep into American communities as well. More than 3.5 million Arab Americans live in big cities, small towns, and suburban neighborhoods from coast to coast. In the bedroom community of Danville, just east of San Francisco, the Ghanem family tunes in to broadcast from the Middle East to share the Ramadan experience.
Well, Ramadan is, I think it's special for every Muslim because it's a time of year where it's different than the rest of the year because Muslims who can will be fasting. It's a very spiritual time generally.
Allahu Akbar. Like 20, 25 years ago, and we would be fasting all by ourselves. We didn't know whether they were fasting back home or not, and there were no satellite TVs or anything like that, so we were completely isolated.
And satellite TV, I think, plays a big role now that we get the Arabic programming
Brought people together.
here.
You feel that
really
it's sort of like a global thing.
Yeah,
the fasting is more global.
It's not just people who live in the region, it's also Arabs and Muslims in the United States and Europe who are all bonded together through these shows. I watch these shows so that I can call up my mom and talk about them. I live in San Francisco, she lives in Cairo, but we watch the same soap opera. We can make fun of the same silly hairdos and the same storylines, and we can have something to laugh about and share.
They make it out to be like something crazy going on, During Ramadan, right after we eat, they sit down and they watch 5 or 6 shows and they follow each of them. And then during parties, they're all talking about what they enjoy about the show and what happened this week, what they think's gonna happen.
So let me tell you about Amani's system.
I go by the storyline.
Amani's system in identifying the different shows. She would spend the first 2-3 days of Ramadan going through every single one of them, and oh, there's a new one here. And then she would write it down, and okay, it's on this channel at this time. Then she would go through a screening process of watching every one of those shows like once or twice, and then she would make up her mind, is this good or bad?
It doesn't look.
So does it stay on the permanent list or not?
I'm intrigued.
While Amani has all kinds of shows on her list, she never misses The Lovebird. This show follows a muckraking newspaper reporter who doesn't even know her own husband may be a crook.
Now, in the last series, she played that really mean old woman, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
I think that the Arab public and the Arab viewers love melodrama, especially Egyptian melodrama. The Egyptian miniseries are very dramatic, and they tend to exaggerate their facial expressions. They tend to use music that's just over the top. They tend to really exaggerate the storylines just to be completely out there. But I think they do that because, you need to escape from the reality of life. I think that Ramadan TV could be seen as an extension of a long-held Arab storytelling tradition. Even before Islam came to the Middle East, Arabs would have story competitions, poetry competitions, and they would tell tales that would last hours, sometimes even days.
Arabic language is captivating to people who are born to it. It is seen as the language in which the Quran, the word of God for Muslims, has been revealed. And this is why people use language not only to worship and to pray, but also to entertain, to sing, to tell a story. And that's part of what the Middle East is all about. In pre-radio and pre-TV days, there was a phenomenon in Ramadan called the Hakawati. This is a time when people would go late at night after dinner, sometimes 9, 10, or 11. They go to the local cafe and they sit there, and somebody would be perched on a very high chair, and they would tell really a long story that runs for 30 days. And it goes on day after day. This phenomenon still exists in the Arab world. It's very old-fashioned, but TV today, just like here in America, has unfortunately replaced what used to be part of communal life in the region.
And what kind of TV is replacing the storytelling tradition? Programs for just about every modern taste. Interactive game shows get viewers to call in with answers to puzzles. Cooking shows give helpful hints and iftar recipes. And during this holy month, music shows bow to religion, replacing sexy pop stars with traditional performers.
Obviously, during Ramadan, the media focuses on religion. And there are many different religious shows that reflect the diversity of religion in the Middle East.
يوفقني في هذه المسيرة نتاع تجويد القرآن. فليدع ناديه سندع الزبانية.
السلام عليكم. وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
There are some phone-in shows, of course, that we see on almost every channel. Almost every channel has a sheikh that comes on every single day and answers questions from the audience about various religious issues. Some are very technical, some are very emotional issues.
عندي استطاعة إني أوصل إلى المجاهدين أو المقاومين في فلسطين. أريد الفتوى هل أذهب أم لا؟ وجزاك الله خير إذا تسمعنا قصيدتك عن ابنك عبد الرحمن رحمة الله عليه إن شاء الله.
آمين. لا تذهب أخي عبد اللطيف، جهادك في نفسك وفي أهل بيتك وفي تكوين الأسرة المسلمة وفي بناء الحياة وإصلاحها. لا نريد أن نختصر قضية المسلمين في العالم كله بقضية فلسطين أو غيرها، والفلسطينيون هم أصلا لا يستقبلون أحدا ولا.
Also, I mean, on a positive note, I personally find a lot of moderation, a lot of mainstream Islam, and I'm actually very, very encouraged by the calls that goes into these programs, because it says that, you know, it is not as bad as people think, quite frankly.
The young Amr Khalid host one of the Arab-speaking world's most popular series of religious programs.
Amr Khalid is a rising star in the Middle East. He started out in Egypt, and he was recruited by some television channels to give his lectures on TV so that it could be broadcast to the general Arab public. And he was phenomenal. People loved him. He spoke to people in a way that religious leaders of today haven't been able to speak to the public.
He's really honed in on how to tap into a young audience, how to really get into their mind. His appeal is that I know how young people think. I know what you guys are thinking. You're thinking that you want to go out to a nightclub, or you want to go and smoke a joint rather than pray. But let me tell you that prayer is better.
Amr Khalid is criticized by the right for not being a scholar per se. And he's criticized on the left because the left thinks he's too conservative, that he teaches too traditionally.
والعكس بنت زي الفل لكن تعصي وحفلات مش عارف ايه ونايت كلابس وتروح وتسهر وترقص وتعمل وكان مكتوب لها زوج زي الفل ما تستحقش.
His audience is huge. He's also talking to young Arab Muslims in the diaspora who may feel confused, conflicted about their traditional religious values, living in a Western society.
People don't always see a clash between the traditional and the modern. Sometimes they want both. So people have a choice. They can watch religious shows or funny sitcoms, or both.
Oh, that's the Friends one.
Oh, they have like the laugh track in the background.
ايه ده؟ خروف حنذبحه على العيد. هيكون ايه يعني؟ شيء.
I think that comedy is sometimes needed in the Middle East because they watch TV so much and they see on the news all the terrible things that are going on in the Middle East, like in Iraq and in the occupied territories. They need the comedy to relax them, to give them a psychological boost.
The affinity for comedy, I hope, is universal. I can't imagine a society without humor. I can't imagine a society that doesn't like to laugh and to be entertained.
Costume dramas tell historical tales, offering subtle commentary on current struggles in the Middle East. One recent hit, El Moorabitoun, The Last Moors, was set in the 15th century, at the end of Muslims' 700-year rule over Spain.
It was a huge success in the last Ramadan season. And I think the message behind it was more than one. I mean, one, they wanted to remind the Arabs that there was a period when Arabs were in glory and in greatness, unlike the times where Arabs feel today that they are in distress and they are very weak and they are being trampled upon by the United States and Israel.
The costumes that they wear, the beautiful costumes that they wear, the old homes that they used to live in, the women in their jewelry. You'll see how they lived. You feel like you are living with them and you feel proud at the same time for being an Arab.
Al-Murabitun is a very interesting example because of their depiction of the relationship between Christians and Muslims. The Christians are portrayed as aggressors who want to kick the Muslims out of Spain.
لكن الرب لا يريد أن يجتمع النصارى والمسلمين على أرض إسبانيا فلا بد من إخراج المسلمين. أدركت هنا لماذا يناصر قداسة البابا في روما حرب الاسترداد.
And unfortunately, these shows don't show enough harmony between Christians and Muslims because that harmony did exist. Unfortunately, though, in the context of television shows, harmony doesn't sell. Harmony is not going to make for a good show.
News headlines turn into storylines in one of the most controversial of recent Ramadan dramas, Hur Layin, Beautiful Virgins. The director says the program is aimed at Arabs who have yet to make up their minds about terrorism. The series is based on the real-life bombing of an apartment complex in Saudi Arabia.
أنا شفت شغلات كتير يمكن لقدي ما شافوا. ما عاد يخوفني شيء. أنا جربت كل شيء. الموت، العجز، الدمع، الحزن، الحرق، الغربة. لكن ضحية كل هدول لسه في شيء.
Narrated by a young woman who survives the blast, the drama follows the interconnected stories of her neighbors before and after the bombing. Hur Layin deals with social problems such as domestic violence, drug abuse, and unemployment, linking them to the rise of religious extremism. The show intercuts scenes of a terrorist ringleader and a moderate cleric in an ongoing debate about the true meaning of jihad.
صوتنا في أعماقه أقوى من صوتك يا شيخ عبد اللطيف. خاطبه بالجهاد وتخاطبه بالرحمة.
والمعنى جهاد الفكر والحجة والبرهان لا القتل والدماء والأشلاء.
Hur Layin seeks to define terrorism by Arabs. I think the Middle East is sick of having terrorism be identified with Arabs and with Islam. And I think Hur Layin is an attempt to define terrorism as not being part of Arab culture and as not being part of Islam.
Some critics have condemned the show as defaming Islam, while others call the drama's anti-terrorist message propaganda, allowing its Saudi Arabian backers to look tough on extremism.
It's also refreshing to see a show that is talking about these very serious issues, because most Ramadan shows are fluff. But this one at least tries to talk about terrorism in a very serious context, but nowhere nearly serious enough, and certainly not deep enough to address the real issues behind why terrorism exists and examining the power structure in Saudi Arabia in particular.
Wanting to know more about the debates around Hur al-Ayn, we invited 4 Arab Americans to watch the show with us. They included a chemical engineer, a doctor, a lawyer, and a professor of Islamic studies who reacted strongly to scenes like this.
لك دخيلك هلا أنو جهاد هذا اللي عم يحكوا عنه يعني قتل المدنيين جهاد قتل الآباء والأمهات وتيتيم الأطفال اسمه جهاد
هل يعني الجهاد واحد يمسك سلاح ويمسك معاه متفجرات ويروح يرهب ناس عزل لا ناقة ليهم ولا جمل.
It kept explaining every episode that what is jihad, and jihad is not what is happening now. That's not jihad.
I know this is only a TV show, but it's a TV show that is attempting to critique the concept of jihad and jihadists in the Muslim world, and therefore it becomes an aspect of the global discussion. And as such, now we're telling the Muslim world, the problem is you, right? The problem is that you have to change how you think, and the reason is because you don't understand Islam correctly.
Every time we critique ourselves, we tend to say, okay, the West is dictating. Let's look at it just for once in a while. Look at it. Maybe we are doing something that...
I'm saying that it needs, the critique has to be contextualized in a larger context.
Fine, but at least you attack some right now. Let's give it credit.
What I'm critiquing is essentially the government absolving itself through media of having any major responsibility for what's taking place. There are more poor people that die on a daily basis as a result of the government lack of interest in addressing the needs of its people than what the jihad is.
I agree with you that there needs to be a balance between recognizing the real source of the problem and then trying to contain the response, because if they're getting nothing but images of war, then the response might be a completely irrational response that just perpetuates the situation and makes it much worse.
But for a regular person, they won't look at it as politically as you are, criticize it politically as you are.
But I have...
What's the effect of this show on ordinary people? They will start thinking that this is not something right. Then we have to keep our eyes open. And I think this is a good message, regardless who brought the message.
If Hur al-Ayn is sparking debates like this one from California to Cairo, then Ramadan TV is redefining how Arabs see themselves, giving the rest of the world a glimpse of the Middle East through Arab eyes, and opening doors for new conversations.
If you find yourself seated next to a Muslim on a bus and you want to strike up conversation with them, just mention one of these Ramadan shows. And you'll find that people will light up immediately and know exactly what you're talking about.
People in the Middle East, just like human beings elsewhere, are multidimensional. They are complicated, complex human beings. Yes, they do watch news, they care deeply about issues relating to the Israeli occupation, American occupations and wars, but they also like to have sometimes for music, sometimes for entertainment.
We watch television. That's where we have our social conversations. That's where we examine ourselves as a society. You can learn a lot about any society by watching their TV, and especially by watching their primetime TV, like Ramadan shows.
To learn more about this program, visit linktv.org. Funding for this program was provided by the Rockefeller Brothers Fund.